So I'm here with Dennis and Tom. How you guys doing today? Good. What brings you out today?
We're here for the same reason for the 257th week. We love America. We support our president. We back our ICE agents in the American way. We love our country, and that's pretty much it. We do this every Saturday, noon to 2, or until we feel like doing it.
We want to make sure that we have a new governor in November, because the governor we have is driving the state into bankruptcy, and she basically ignores a lot of her responsibilities, like the Niagara County radioactive dumping problem that she totally turned on its head. When she was asked, are you going to visit the residents in Niagara County? On the radio yesterday, she had mentioned, well, I'm not going to turn the misery of people into a political event. But she did not respond to these residents when they reached out to her for help. So that is political, and mainly just shows that she doesn't care about the people of New York.
Okay. And I know we've talked a lot about immigration. Now, I mentioned, COVID a while back. You had mentioned COVID, about one of the reasons you had brought out your anger
right,
to start.
Kids were being vaccinated, or you don't get to go to school. We said, let that be a choice.
Or you lost your job.
Let it be a choice. My Trump-hating cardiologist agrees that I was vaccine injured. And that's a Trump-hating cardiologist, a Trump hater.
So what do you think?
I was injured from the vaccine, and I tried to make the best decision possible. I tried to look at the science and to analyze everything. And my daughter, who's a diabetic, please, and I took the Johnson & Johnson shot and suffered a descending artery. It was, got the technical term, but it was...
So what do you think about the hearings that just happened with Senator Rand Paul as the chair?
Paul, yeah. Well, you know what? I think Fauci's guilty as hell. He did do gain-of-function research, and he's done this as far back as the SARS incident, back in 2003, and it got out of control. He's responsible. I'm sorry, that's what I think. And I think he's a liar. I think all this masking up was just, what do? We'll just make it up, and his diary confirmed it. Read his diary.
He got an auto pen pardon from someone in the staff in the White House, not from the president, Joe Biden.
So
at the hearings, he did not answer one single question from any committee member in that hearing.
He just pled the fifth.
He pled the fifth.
He has a pardon, so why not answer, unless he's gutless?
What was brought out was a lot of deep dive information about text messages and emails in between his Wuhan location and his places in the United States, as well as other medical experts, and he talked about the problems with the jab, the serious medical downsides of taking the jab, but he was just interested in making money. Now for me, he pleaded the fifth, and that is a chargeable offense from Congress, and they should call him out on it.
Okay. And how do you feel about gain-of-function research? Do you think there should be a permanent ban? Do you think it should be restricted in a lot of ways? What are your thoughts on gain-of-function?
Gain-of-function had no domestic control. It was done overseas. Yes, there should be no gain-of-function.
Until they can figure out how to do it, ban it out for now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you had said it was been doing in other countries, so what? No research funding, you're saying, would be coming from the United States? Because we can't necessarily make a permanent ban on other countries, but domestically we could do a ban and then pause funding or end all funding for gain-of-function research.
You don't have to fund other countries. So we cannot fund them for any reason. We sanction countries.
So do you know which president actually put a pause on gain-of-function research initially?
No, but if it's a Democrat, good for him.
It was Obama in 2014.
Good for him. Obama also deported 3 million criminal aliens using ICE agents with the same tactics. Thank you, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And he used the same chief.
But do you know who actually lifted that pause for the gain-of-function research funding?
I
It was Trump. It was
Yeah.
Trump. I mean, yeah, I mean, he was obviously Dr. Fauci was the one that was giving the authorization as well, but it was Trump that actually reversed the Obama policy.
And then once he learned that there was something wrong with that, I'm sure, I don't have the specific date or anything like that, but then he wanted it to stop. So sometimes, yeah, I mean,
Donald Trump
And this is an argument I have with liberals, okay? Trust me. Because they don't like the argument about gain of function because a lot of them would prefer to have other arguments that benefit certain sides. And I actually believe in the truth coming out. I appreciated that Dr. Rand Paul wanted to have a hearing where he subpoenaed somebody, and I was hoping that we would get more information. I was hoping.
Yeah, and you have to remember the president has a lot on his plate, so he's depending on different departments and organizations and people in Congress to deep dive and find that information for the benefit of the American population. If it's, gain of function, if it's fraud, if it deals with the border security, all of that. He put in place very competent individuals to handle that. And Anthony, you have
So we'll disagree with Fauci. I mean, he didn't put him into place, but he did keep him.
Yeah.
He did keep him. But I mean, so let's try to think about something we might agree on. You were talking about the governor's race. How do you guys feel about ranked choice voting? Do you think ranked choice voting is a good idea?
No. Whoever wins, wins. The Democrats came up with that as a method to win. And you know what? Elections have consequences. Remember when Obama said that? So when the Democrats are in charge of certain things, they put that in place. To give
So
them
do you
an
think
advantage.
ranked choice
Just
voting
like they
always
did in
benefits
2020.
Democrats?
When the Democrats are in charge, they will make laws to benefit themselves. Look, in 2020, in the Pennsylvania election in 2020 for president, you were allowed, the Democrats set this up because they ran Pennsylvania, you were allowed to postmark in the mail 3 days after the election. 3 days after the election, you were allowed to make a postmark and send in the mail.
But
So
that's
you can
not ranked
literally
choice
look
voting.
at-
That's not ranked choice
It's not
voting.
ranked voting, but it's still a policy that the Democrats set, which I think is
But do you think that ranked choice
I
voting
think-
always benefits Democrats? I don't think that's really something.
I
ranked
think it
choice
does.
voting is
Whose
inherent-
idea was it? It was the Democrats' idea. It wasn't the Republicans' idea.
Ranked choice voting is inherently unfair to the population. If you have three candidates, one gets 56%, one gets 35%, and then the other candidates.
Let me
are
give you an
low.
example. Senate district, when it was before 61, it was called 60. You had Mark Grisanti, you had Mark Panepinto, and you had another candidate. The candidate that won didn't get over 50%.
So
does
what?
that?
You got the most votes.
That's true.
If you get the most
That's
votes,
true.
you win.
That's true.
So what if it's less than 50%?
That's
Because you
true.
got three people, so that's very possible. 90% of the time.
But is it
you're gonna get-
representing the general figure of the population's
yes, it does. Because
ideology?
you have three people, you're going to have three different opinions. Whoever gets the most votes wins.
Anthony, you also have to realize that for the past 15 to 20 years, the amount of people, registered voters I'm talking about, that fail to come out for primaries and general elections has declined, okay?
There's less voter turnout.
There's less voter turnout.
Yes.
Which means that if you have a substantial interest group that pushes people to come out because the rest of the population says, well, primaries don't really matter, I'll wait for the general election. Then you have this stronger group, this underlying group, pushing a candidate of their interest in the race, and that's not fair.
Okay, so how do you feel about signature requirements to get on the ballot? Do you think that they're too high? Do you think we should lower the signature requirements to get on the ballot to have more candidates?
I think
they're proper.
each district, each state has their own local laws about
Well, let's
what
talk
they think is
locally,
fair.
though.
So it works. It
Let's
works
talk
for
locally.
all parties. All parties have to get the same amount of signatures. Whether you're
But what about
Democrat,
independent candidates? We'll talk
Same
locally.
thing.
No, it's higher for independent candidates locally. Do you think
well,
that's
if
fair?
Well, it's higher for, that's a fact, I'd have to
That
look
is a
into
fact.
it.
It's
All right.
1,500
Well,
if you want to
then
run for
maybe-
council
If
in
it's
City of
higher-
Buffalo.
If it's higher for independent candidates,
Fine, that's somewhere
unfair.
I can agree with. Let's make it the same.
So you would
amount.
be saying
And if
it's
a-
okay
if
to
a
make it
high
the
number, it's a
same?
high number. If
It
it's a
should
low
be the
number,
same.
Okay, and that was also for congressional candidates too. That's locally. That's locally. And also the county can actually change that state law for the local
yeah.
races, not
And
necessarily
who's
congressional.
In charge of Erie County right now? What party's in charge of Erie County?
I understand what you're
You know,
saying,
they can change things to their advantage.
and I'm not represented
Represent
Democrat
consequences.
either. But
That's
do
exactly
you
what
understand where we have non-competitive races mostly locally?
Non-competitive races because the in-control parties control the candidates. All right, it makes it harder for independents to get into the race.
Yeah, it was probably.
And do you
I
think
don't
less
prove it,
people
but I bet
vote
you
if
it's
they
a
don't have a
bad
choice?
idea.
Do you think people will vote if they don't feel they have a choice?
People that vote will just vote because all my life I watched my parents vote and wish that I could be a part of the process. They would take me into the booth and they'd say, "Here, hit this button for me." You know, I got psyched to want to vote. The people that want to vote will vote for anything. They'll vote for the school board. They'll vote for the cafeteria monitor. When I was a kid, you know, who was the class president? You know,
Now,
so people that don't want to vote, they just don't vote.
if you have registered voters that take a look at the candidates and say, no, I don't want to vote for either one, so I'm staying home. That's a disservice to their civic duty. What they should do is go to the polls and do a write-in ballot. For example, they can write their own name in. They can write the name of the independent candidate that couldn't get enough votes to get on the platform. That is their civic responsibility. It's an actionable action, and it will progress and make change.
Now this conversation can happen forever. What do you guys feel about AI data centers? Obviously the governor put a pause moratorium on the data centers. How do you guys feel about that?
Data centers use a lot of resources. They use a lot of, and I'm talking about water. Generally, they increase the rate of what we pay for electricity because they draw that to run the data centers. So at this point, I would say there needs to be more study on the ecological, on the cost before anything proceeds or moves forward. This isn't a, hey, give me some money on the side and I'll push the AI issue. It affects everyone, so a lot more research has to go into it.
So obviously you won't be voting for Hochul, but do you agree with what she had done with the moratorium on the AI data centers?
She did that to get votes.
But either way, do you still support her on that one thing, right? Okay. What about you, Dennis? What do you think?
Well, yeah, we need more research. I have been going back and forth on the issue, to be honest with you. Back and forth, you know, with the positives and negatives. But we also are into the 21st century, and the rest of our world is going to be using it. It can be used against us, too. So, depends on who's in charge of the AI.
All right, guys, I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, you too.